I face this absurd questioning about my tweets about matters of public policy. I'm the head of the largest government watchdog group in the country. I'm being harassed by this Justice Department over my tweets, and I wish I had known at the time they had a subpoena out for every tweet that mentioned Trump and every follower of Trump. The other big news this week is actually, it's not news because the subpoena came out, I think, back in August, but kind of everyone overlooked this aspect of it. It was a subpoena the Biden regime, through Jack Smith's special counsel investigation, issued to Twitter for Donald Trump's tweets and other material from the platform. It was a secret subpoena that only became public in recent months. Now, folks have finally gotten around looking at it more carefully. I wish I had seen it more carefully. I don't think I looked at the subpoena when it first came out. So that shows you got to read some of this stuff. You can't rely on media or even worse, social media descriptions of what documents are. You often have to read them yourself. But it shows the most widespread spying operation that I'm aware of by the Justice Department in American history. I should say the most. Well, it's 68 million. How many Twitter followers did Trump have? 68 million? Well, maybe it is the most. It was a subpoena signed by Judge Beryl Howell, an inveterate anti-Trump judge, partisan, who has consistently ruled against Trump on all matters, basically upended the rule of law to get Trump. In fact, she was just given a speech recently talking about authoritarianism and the big lies, just using Democratic Party talking points as a sitting federal judge. Incredible example of bias. And she signed on to this sweeping subpoena that Twitter didn't object to, other than that they didn't think that they should be required not to tell anyone about it. They wanted to tell folks that they were issued this subpoena. And the courts wouldn't let them, the anti-Trump courts here in Washington, D.C. But a key portion of the subpoena isn't directed at Trump. It's directed at you if you were a Trump follower on Twitter. Let me get to that page here. It's page page 2. Section 2. All content, records, and other information relating to communications sent from or received by the subject account from October 20th, 2020 to January 2021, including but not limited to the content of all tweets created, drafted, and favorited or liked or retweeted by the subject account, including all such deleted tweets. So if you tried to delete a tweet, they might have it if Trump liked it. And all associated multimedia, metadata, and logs. Okay, so at least that's directed in theory at Trump, and it might catch up other people, maybe assuming the subpoena is credible or in good faith, within reason. The content of all direct messages sent from, received by, stored, or in draft form or otherwise associated with the subject account, including all attachments, multimedia, header information, metadata, and logs. Again, that may be okay. So if you're not a user of Twitter, people can tweet, but they also can communicate privately through a direct messaging application. All other content, records, and other information relating to all other interactions between the subject account and other Twitter users from October 20th to 2021, including but not limited to all users the subject account has followed, unfollowed, muted, unmuted, blocked, or unblocked, and all users, meaning you likely, who have followed, unfollowed, muted, unmuted, blocked, or unblocked the subject account. All information from the Connect or Notifications tab for the account, including all lists of Twitter users, all lists of Twitter users who have favorited or retweeted tweets posted by the account, as well as all tweets that include the username associated with the account, meaning mentions or replies. Then there's other invasive requests about Trump's use of the account. So they want to know, and there's a file on you right now, if this subpoena has been fully complied with, if you said real Donald Trump, which is his Twitter handle, should save America. They took your tweet, and there's a file on you. Now, President Trump interacted with me and promoted Judicial Watch's tweets on Twitter. He retweeted me and such, and certainly I often mention Trump in my tweets, and as did Judicial Watch. So we're victims of this spy operation. What business is it of the Biden administration, other than to compile an enemies list of tens of millions of Trump's Twitter followers? Indeed, the enemies list includes friends of Biden. I mean, I'm sure Nancy Pelosi followed Trump, right? Or interacted through her account somehow. Democrats and other opponents of Trump, who knows? So this abuse not only targets Trump world and people who are following him because he was president of the United States. If you want to interact with your president on Twitter, the Biden administration wants your Twitter information. That's wrong. It's a violation of your First Amendment rights, and I would argue other federal laws. And I tell you, what was the reaction in the House of Representatives to this shocking development? This shocking understanding of this massive violation of our First Amendment rights to expel George Santos. As far as I'm concerned, stuff like this should result in the shutdown of the Justice Department. I don't mean literally the complete shutdown of the Justice Department, but you know what I mean. Jack Smith should be called into Congress immediately and be required to testify under oath about this abuse. He should be defunded. And as I've been saying, the idea that this Republican-controlled House of Representatives continues to fully fund Jack Smith, especially in light of this Twitter subpoena, is an abomination. And as Trump has often said, that they're coming, I stand between them and you. They have to go through me to you. If this doesn't prove that Trump is right, that they're going through Trump to get to you, I don't know what will. This is an incredible abuse of power by the Biden administration and the Justice Department and Jack Smith. And what are the courts doing about it? They're blessing it. They're telling Twitter they couldn't tell anyone about it, so they could object before it was too late. Now, it helps explain some of the abuse I suffered at the Biden Justice Department when Jack Smith, his attorneys, questioned me, his prosecutors, before the grand jury as a witness. They spent a good deal of time asking me about my darn tweets. Now, I'm always happy to talk about my tweets because I think they're all great, right? Including the tweets they wanted to ask me about. So I got to wonder, was this part of this craziness? Their focus on my tweets? And Trump's, they were asking me, for instance, whether Trump approved of my tweets or did he agree with them. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if he retweeted them, I guess he would have agreed with them, right? And that's not always even true. I sometimes retweet stuff that I think is interesting. I don't necessarily agree with it word for word. I mean, the whole point is I face this absurd questioning about my tweets about matters of public policy. I'm the head of the largest government watchdog group in the country. I'm being harassed by this Justice Department over my tweets, and I wish I had known at the time they had a subpoena out for every tweet that mentioned Trump and every follower of Trump during a key time period. So you can be sure our lawyers are looking at this very closely. So this is what's happening in Washington, D.C. And Speaker Johnson, I mean, the report was the other day that unless they come to an agreement, he's going to fully fund, without restriction, the Biden administration through the end of the fiscal year, which is essentially through the election. No effort to, beyond, passing a restriction that's never going to be agreed to by the Senate. They're not going to shut down an agency of the government over any of this. They're not going to do it. That's what he said. At least that's what the reports are. Maybe he'll change his mind, or maybe the reports are wrong. So this is where we are. And all I say is thank God for Judicial Watch. Because Congress isn't going to shut this stuff down. And, without Judicial Watch, providing the leadership and the pressure on some of this, because I'm convinced if there wasn't if Judicial Watch and those of the other Americans who are concerned about Biden corruption, for instance, wasn't pressing on impeachment, I'm convinced there'd be no impeachment or impeachment inquiry of Biden. And a lot of these investigations into Biden really are following Judicial Watch's lead as well. But in the end, Judicial Watch can't defund this abuse. They can. And I don't think there's any good excuse not to try and make it a red line. Maybe just pick one thing that they want to fight over. That no, the government can't do this, and if you want to do it, you're not going to have any money for it, and the government's going to shut down until you stop doing it. Just pick something. What would you pick if you had to pick one? Give me ideas below. I mean, you could pick the border, right? No money for sending illegal aliens from the border to the interior of the country. We're not going to fund our own invasion. We could pick censorship. We're not going to fund our censorship. I mean, it was just the other day, who was it? It was in Politico, I think, or one of the major newspapers. I don't know. So the Biden administration is frustrated that inflation continues to be a concern of the American people. So they're seeking to censor it online, tweets and information and complaints about inflation. And the Biden White House is monitoring it and trying to get big media, the big social media companies, to censor your complaints on inflation. I mean, so it hasn't stopped, guys. It hasn't stopped. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.